So you have the consumers, businesses, government spending, and there's also the import-export part, but import-export, at least in terms of the growth part, cancels out. So the economy, you add up all the segments, it is expanding, but not robustly. It is a moderate recovery so far. I think the key is that business spending recovers, everything will be better. And in terms of the total job, 1 million job creation last year, and probably 2 million job creation this year. Definitely moving in the right direction, but it's not time to celebrate. This is in the aftermath of 8 million job losses. Using a sports analogy, you play the game, you give up 8 touchdowns, you score 1 last year, and now you are anticipating to score 2 touchdowns this year. It's not time to celebrate. It's just like you are just moving in the right direction. Because we are still at a huge down. Number of people who are unemployed or underemployed in the U.S. is about 25,000. People who have job but only part-time job, they want a full-time job. Normal would be something about 10 million. So to say you have 25 million Americans who are unemployed or underemployed, this is a large labor pool and potentially very disgruntled labor pool. Local market situation. So there was a boom. I think part of it was housing market boom. Many people, huge price increases, cash out refi, buy that automobile, go to restaurant. It helped the local economy. And then subsequent crash. Now it's beginning to stabilize. And in fact, if one was to compare February of this year versus February of last year, it's 16,000 additional jobs. So things have actually really turned around. But compared to 10 years ago, it's about the same number of jobs as 10 years ago. Because you had ups and downs. But this is a longer term time trend from 1950 to 2011, 60-year time trend. So one sees that Orange County has greatly risen over the time. That only from about, I guess, 2005 that things have beginning to go down. So if one believes the long-term trend will return, then it's only a short-term downturn that you are experiencing in the local economy. Improving affordability, improving job market condition will bring buyers. There are overly stringent obstacles, but one other area is the consumer price on apartment rents. That is also beginning to turn higher, and renters who are renting, when the rent notice comes out to say your rent will be rising 5% or 10%, they immediately do calculation. Do I buy a home now? Does that make better sense? And given the rents are beginning to rise, I think this will be another impetus for the financially qualified renters to think about buying a home. So again, this is helping, moving in the right direction to help the housing market. Consumer price index, 1.7% higher, meaning that very, very little inflationary pressure. People who are receiving Social Security check, you didn't get any cost of living adjustment increase because government said, well, CPI is so low, you don't need a cost of living adjustment. Well, look at the producer price index, which is what the producers are paying to buy their products, not the consumers, what the producers are paying to buy their products. For finished products, it is up 5.8%. For intermediate products, companies who are in the intermediate sort of chain of supply chain area, they're paying about 8%. Crude product, 16% higher. Commodity prices up 35%, gold prices at record high. So this is implying that even though the consumers' inflation is tame, not that important. I know from your point of view, every time you pump the gas tank, it's way out there, but somehow government is saying it's up only 1.7%. If you add up everything, Interestingly, by the way, this is actually true. I know you may think it is trickery. Technology is a great thing. It's a great luxury. I have an iPad, and this iPad, technological luxury, somehow this Apple's philosophy, you make those luxury into a necessity very quickly. And yet, to become a necessity now, I cannot do it without it. So they come with iPad 2. Now, this is iPad 1. Now, I'm not going to buy iPad 2 because it's not too much meaningful change. But assume iPad 2 comes out, and let's say, hypothetically, I don't know what they're charging, hypothetically they are charging same price as iPad 1. So iPad 1 and iPad 2, they charge same price. According to government statistician, they don't say there was zero change in price for iPad. They don't say that. They said prices of iPad has fallen, even though you are paying the same amount. And the reason why they say that, well, it's a more better product. It has camera and others, so you are getting a better product at the same price, which means for the same product, you are actually paying lower price. So according to government data, they actually say you are paying lower price. Even though out of your pocket, you are paying the same amount. So anyway, consumer prices index is 1.7%. Government is saying there's not that much inflation, but pipeline inflation appeared to be building. Furthermore, there's a lot of printing of money, and they're trying to stop that, but there's a lot of printing of money, and any common sense would say you print a lot of money, there will be eventual inflation. And in any other country, Mexico, Philippines, you name it, they print a lot of money, there will be inflation right away. America, we are fortunate, we are global currency. If you print money, inflation may not happen right away because Russians are willing to hold on to the dollar. But there's some inflationary pressure building, and you have to say, does that mean eventually there could be higher consumer price inflation? My best guess is that inflation, consumer price inflation, will be higher next year, but not drastically so. But also the producer price index, even though it's rising fast, is known to be very volatile. So it can move up very fast, but also move down very fast. So that's also a possibility, even though so far it's been moving up, and moving up, only in the one direction. But it could easily go down very fast as well. But it still raises the question, given that so much printing of the money, and surely inflation will be a little higher next year. Some people believe drastically higher next year, but I think it will be a little higher next year. Will people begin to consider real estate as a hedge? This is real estate price versus consumer price inflation past trends. So if you look at 1969 from first year all the way for a long period, it has actually correlated well, except for the bubble and burst. Bubble and burst, it broke down because it was a different peculiar situation. But now that housing prices appear to be back to normal, if there is an inflation, will home values also begin to track consumer price inflation? In other words, real estate returns to their inflation hedge mode. It could happen. I don't know. It could happen. I mentioned about the survey that I take, and some people are beginning to say, I have a buyer, investor who are buying now because they don't want to put their money in the bank. They're essentially getting nothing in the bank, so now they want to buy real estate. At least they're getting rental income, and furthermore, they view it as a hedge against any future inflation. When there is an inflation, very high inflation, hyperinflation, there will be winners and losers. Losers are people who are holding on to paper assets. But the winners are people who are holding on to hard assets, gold, real estate. When there was a hyperinflation in Germany after World War I, there was a huge redistribution of wealth. People who had hard asset property, they won. People who didn't, they lost. I definitely do not anticipate any hyperinflation. Very, very near zero probability. But higher inflation, yeah, that's certainly likely. And we may also begin to see some investors with cash beginning to buy real estate as a result that they want to possibly hedge against inflation.